Hi everyone, welcome to the Green Room, and today I am joined once again, as always, by James.
Hi there, hi everyone.
And I'm Nick. And actually, James, before we begin today, I'm just wanted to see how much attention you're paying to last week's podcast. So I'm wondering, can you name 5 of the electric heating sources that we discussed last week?
Maybe. Infrared, storage heaters, convection heater, panel heater.
Okay.
Heat pump, air source and ground source. So that's 5. Can I name more? Halogen heater.
Perfect. All right. He's
I'm all over it.
I'm
all over it.
He paid attention, so that's fine. I thought I was going to catch you out.
No chance, mate. No chance.
But anyway, so because we're also in the middle of winter, and we're still.
I saw a snowflake on my car this morning.
I had a 5-minute snow blizzard.
Did you?
On the train coming
snow blizzard.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Okay.
It was. Yeah, I just thought, with the way our trains and our public transport, any bit of extremities, I'll be stuck on the trains for
made
a few hours.
Commute quite interesting.
But anyway, so today we want to talk about, just because we get asked this question quite a lot by the good folk, i.e., what are some of the most effective ways to save money on energy bills? And actually today we're going to talk about 10 things.
Okay.
So, I was just wondering, why don't you kick it off?
Okay, fine. So, first one. All to do with heating, really. Yeah, because, obviously we can save on electricity, lighting and stuff, but the main one is heating. So, thermostat. Have a thermostat in your home, right? I think it's, during the winter, if it's 3 or 4 degrees outside, inside it probably doesn't need to be 25.
Have you got anything clever in your house? Have you got any of those gizmo thermostats?
I have a Nest thermostat.
Okay.
It's basically just a normal thermostat, but clever, intelligent.
Why is it clever?
So I can set the heating from my phone.
Okay.
So I don't know if that makes it clever. Well, it does make it relatively clever.
How often do you do that?
Not often.
Okay.
I use it pretty much as a standard thermostat.
Okay.
But they look quite smart. To be fair, that's the main reason I got it. But it is just a standard thermostat. Okay. And the thermostat, all that's doing is basically it's recording the temperature in the house, or recording the temperature exactly in the area the thermostat is positioned, and it's saying if it's colder than the thermostat setting, it's saying turn the boiler on. And if it's warmer than the thermostat setting, it says turn the boiler off. Mm-hmm. And therefore it either draws heat or it stops the heating going on. I think the problem with them is that some people like their thermostat very warm.
Can you name the recommended...
This is just going to be like this all episode. Go on.
Can you name the recommended temperature range that you should have your thermostat set to?
Surely that's personal preference. I would say.
But what is kind of the government and the
I would say
think tanks
for elderly people it will be higher.
Mm-hmm.
But I would say from 19 to 21.
Okay, it's actually from 18 to 22, but you're on the right track. So it's
I was very precise. And to be honest, if you have it higher than that, right now in the winter, your energy bills are going to be higher. Yeah, obviously, the higher you set it, basically, the longer the heating will be on, because your house will try and reach that temperature.
Well, listen, the whole point is you're not. So when it's winter, you still have to dress appropriate to the season that it's in. So jumpers, etc.
Yeah.
Rather than t-shirts.
Yeah,
it's not
exactly.
Summer, after all.
Exactly. No t-shirts and shorts. So I'd say that is probably the best way. So if you don't have a thermostat in your central heating system, get one. And so it's not just on or off, it's taking the temperature readings in the air. And that is a really, really good way. Every degree you turn your thermostat down, how much can you save? Tester for you.
Oh, is it £50?
It is £50.
Oh, so pay attention. And the reason I paid so much attention to it, James, because actually we helped. I know it's going back a little bit, but it's in 2014. We did a study with YouGov. We did a poll, and actually what we found was some of the things that people most argue about in the home is the heating.
Yeah.
So 25% of all arguments start about the temperature that the thermostat set to, which is
bizarre.
But anyway,
there we go.
We can link to it actually. We can link to it below after this blog.
Right, number 2.
So basically, the whole point is, so we in the UK, so some of our properties are fairly old, so actually over 100 years. And when they were making those properties, the insulation qualities on those houses wasn't that great. But over time, with the newer houses, the insulation is good. The more you can insulate a house, the more energy you can save, because if you're heating it from the inside and it's cold outside, that warmth is trying to go through the fabric of the house. So obviously, loft insulation, wall insulation.
And loft insulation is probably the easiest because it is just really cheap.
Absolutely, yeah. So you can go into your hardware DIY store, pick up a few rolls of loft insulation, put them down into your loft, and actually that will make quite a big difference, but you wouldn't, as you've said, be paying that much outlay for it. When it comes to stuff like wall insulation, it depends a little bit whether it's appropriate to your house, because each house can be made with a slightly different sort of structure of wall types. It can be cavity wall, solid wall. You can get cavity wall retrofit insulation. That's where they inject the holes and pump the insulation material in.
Yeah,
it's fairly cost effective. Whereas if you've got solid walls, then you might need to do something a bit more intrusive through internal wall insulation, or something a little bit bigger like external wall insulation.
Yeah.
But the more you can do, obviously, the more impact it will create on your property, and the more money you'll save.
Would you, pop quiz, would you put in floor insulation?
Depends on, well, if I was to do it literally just, so if I've got an existing house like mine, would I rip the floorboards, put the insulation in, put it all back together? Probably not, because normally heat rises. That's the principles I've been taught. So I would maybe relay the carpets and draft proof it to stop the drafts, but I wouldn't necessarily insulate it as a standalone measure, just because the amount of work that's required, you won't necessarily see the financial paybacks.
And also, if your floor goes up because it's got insulation on, your ceilings in theory get lower.
Yes. So if you've got concrete floors, then it's it's a compromise that you might have to live with.
Like a little hobbit.
Yeah.
Right.
So number 2. So number 3.
Number 3. So we in the UK.
We talked about this a little bit last week.
Yeah, we did. Yeah, incandescent bulbs. So these are the bulbs that get really, really hot. So they produce light because electricity flows through a wire, gets really, really hot, and glows. So that's how it produces light. LED lights produce light in a slightly different way, but basically the offshoot is for every unit of electricity that goes into an LED light, you produce 90% light and 10% heat. And the converse is true, the opposite is true when you're talking about incandescent bulbs and halogen bulbs, so spotlights.
So basically they've been optimised to do what they say on the tin,
exactly.
Produce the light rather than produce the byproduct.
Yeah.
And so how have you found it on your house? Have you swapped everything?
So we've gone fully LED. My wife's very excited about these things, as you can imagine. But we had loads of spotlights, and they're the little halogen ones with the prongs.
Yeah.
Swap those out. To be honest, I can't now. I think it's LED sort of technology has come on so far. I can't tell the difference between that and a halogen light. I'd say there are different colour temperatures. That's the only thing with LED lights. So if you go into your local hardware store again and buy an LED light, you just need to be slightly aware of the different colour temperatures. So they do a cool white light, which is I guess like almost a laboratory light. It's like a light you get in a lab. It's very blue.
Some people like it.
Some people like it. It's a little bit clinical. And then the other end of the spectrum is the warm white, which is kind of got that yellow hue to it, which is kind of more
living rooms.
Yeah, more reminiscent of your traditional incandescent bulbs, and then you have various different colours in between that. But just be aware of that when you're buying LED. So test a couple of bulbs, check you're happy with the colour light, the colour of the light, before you go for it. But they're saving about 90%. Every time you swap a incandescent bulb out or a halogen spot out for a LED, you're saving about 90% of the electricity. Loads of people ask this question: is it worth waiting till the light blows before you swap it with an LED?
Well, so probably not, based on what Harry's just said in terms of some of the stats that she's come up with. So Harry's picked up a stat and said if you replace a 50-watt halogen with a 5-watt halogen, you can save £175 over its lifetime. So based on that fact,
swap it out
I'd
straight
swap
away.
it straight away. Exactly.
100%. I think that's absolutely true. I mean, we have lots and lots of spots on the ceiling, and if you sort of add them all together, the difference is enormous in terms of total wattage used when you put LEDs in.
So basically, LED is good. So
go LED, a big
excellent
one, and that will help save, because we obviously talked about heating, but this is specifically on electricity.
Mm-hmm.
So not a bad one.
Good.
But still turn out your lights when you leave a room.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Next.
So that was 3. Then going on to number 4. So this one will be very brief. So appliances, normally fridges,
TVs.
TVs. Yeah, TVs have actually gone a long way. So I think they're mostly sort of LED based anyway. So I think if you've had it in the last 10 years or so, you're probably going to have fairly newish technology.
Yeah.
But the guzzling ones are like fridges and freezers and stuff like that. So if you've got old ones that need replacing, then definitely go for an A++.
When you buy a new one.
Yeah, they're always adding pluses onto these energy and star ratings and what have you. So
especially, I think dryers are a big one. If you do have a dryer, if you live in a city, don't have a garden, need to get a dryer, just make sure. I think you can go like A+++++ and pay so much more for it because it is marginally more efficient. So just kind of have a look at that and maybe go the one level down without spending a fortune just because it's energy efficient.
So we've not gone for the dryer route. What we've done is we've kind of built a little canopy over our drying area in the garden. So as long as there's a bit of wind to it,
it's not going to dry out today.
Today. Well, when it's it generally just has to be windy, but the canopy kind of stops the rainwater and snow and any of that stuff. So, and the clothes are actually very fresh.
Oh, good. That's good to know.
So for us,
I've noticed that actually sitting next to you.
We're saving money. So that's 4. What's number 5? So
this is to do with drafts. So we talked about it again last week, but convection heating, so the air gets warm in a room. As a radiator heats normally in that way. So if you have cold drafts, it very, very quickly replaces that warm air with cold air. So you need to find ways to stop drafts coming in. So a few ways. If you've got a chimney, right? A chimney is an amazing way for hot air just to escape. So you can get chimney balloons, you can get chimney sheet, essentially something to put up your chimney to stop the drafts.
My favourite is a chimney sheet, actually.
You've just got to remember with all these things, if you ever use a fire, you need to remember something is up it, because otherwise you're going to have smoke and it's going to cause all sorts of issues in your house. So just somehow remember it's in there. But chimney sheet, really, really good way to stop drafts. So that's a good one. Around windows, so you can get the kind of foam sealants.
Yes.
Not like spray foam sealants, but the strips. And you can put those on, and that helps reduce. I
quite like Eco-Ease, James.
Eco-Ease is a good one. So Eco-Ease is like a secondary glazing panel, and it's held in place with magnets.
You produced an excellent demonstration video.
Yes, no, I did a video. I put it in my old
Maybe
flat.
We can cross-link it, Harry, after the podcast.
I put a video of Eco-Ease in my old flat, and it's really, really easy to use, and it makes a big old difference and stops condensation forming on windows.
And soundproofing, so if you're on a busy road and stuff.
Absolutely.
So
secondary glazing is very good for soundproofing. And then just on doors, put a brush on the bottom of the door. What else could you do?
Most mailboxes have a brush as well with a kind of self-closing element to it. So postmen find it hard to put the letters through, but it keeps the drafts out.
Exactly.
I quite like in sort of internal drafts, those kind of fluffy animal things with the long legs. What are they called? Dora Designs.
Yeah, they make them. I mean, they're just draft excluders.
A brand, but
they look quite fun.
Yes.
Yeah. No, very true. Very true. So basically, find ways to minimise drafts. I have on my front door got a bit of glass, and the glass is broken. And
how did that happen?
God knows. Anyway. What we've done is
Postman was trying to put the letters.
I don't know what it was, but it's this tiny little bit of glass. So there's a little bit of a hole in it. So what we've done is we've got some, I want to say cellophane. What's the English word? Cling film.
Yeah.
So I just put some sellotape and cling film, and it obviously does nothing in terms of heat retention, but it does stop this cold draft coming through.
Okay.
So you don't need to spend a lot of
technology.
Money. Well, you don't need to spend a lot of money to do these kind of things.
Very good.
And so no, it is good.
That's good.
Well, I was very happy with it. Still there. Anyway, moving on to number 6.
So monitoring your energy. So basically, how do you know what you're spending in terms of the appliances that you use, and how much electricity at that point, or gas as well, how much is going through your house essentially. So
energy guzzlers.
Yeah, and you can do well. Actually, what I was going to say is I keep on getting reminders and I know we're going to cover smart meters at some point. I keep on getting reminders to install the smart meter.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm getting harassed by my energy provider.
Well, the government are trying to get everyone to install one.
Mm-hmm.
Thoughts on a smart meter?
So,
briefly,
I think ultimately it'll be a good point. But what I was going to say is, with some of the energy suppliers, what they do is they give you a little kind of dongle or an add-on. So either through an app or through the little monitor that they give you, you can actually see in real time what you're spending, what you're using. Mm-hmm. You could also do that before the smart meters, because essentially you put a device onto your consumer units, and then that talk to a smart tablet, and it was essentially telling you, when you're using your tumble dryer, as you said, or your oven, you can see the spike in the energy. Mm-hmm. So I think it's worth to be aware of things.
And that's what, it's not saving you energy per se.
But you've got to take the action.
But you're suddenly aware that actually when you have your dryer on, it costs you X amount of money per hour or whatever.
But maybe, if that leads to, say, a behavioural change, so actually, instead of half machine loads, you're doing full loads, and you're drying at the same time, and then using the tumble dryer twice a week rather than 3 or 4 times a week, mm-hmm. then the awareness of seeing what energy you're using, and that's then I'd say that's a positive point. But if all you're doing is to monitoring, but you're not taking any action, then it's a bit futile.
Yes, no, that's fair.
So anyway, that's number 6. What's on
number 7? Getting paid to produce electricity by the government, essentially. Mm-hmm. So this refers to solar PV, or at least it does until April of 2019, when the feed-in tariff is going to stop. But you can also be paid to produce hot water through the renewable heat incentive. So if you have an air source heat pump, which we touched on last week, a ground source heat pump, both ways to make money from installing a technology. Solar PV, so producing electricity, you get paid. Solar thermal, you get paid for producing hot water. So all these ways are, all these technologies, you actually get rewarded for producing.
So it's got to be an approved technology, essentially. You can't.
It's got to be approved. It's got to be installed by an MCS approved installer. Mm-hmm. You can't just go, find something on the internet, shove it on your roof, and think the government's going to start sending you checks.
Or build a little furnace in the back of your garden and start generating.
Agreed. However, there are, so if you don't have access to gas, for example, some people install a biomass boiler. And a biomass boiler, all it's really doing is, instead of burning gas to produce your hot water, you're burning things like wood chips, or you can actually get ones that just burn normal wood. But they're, you do get paid. You get a quarterly payment for producing electricity or hot water. So not a bad idea. And
I don't know if Harry's covered this, but I believe there's a consultation out at the minute from the government, and they're looking at the exports. Because at the minute it's on, say, like solar PV, mm-hmm. it's a 50-50 thing. So 50% they assume is automatically exported.
Yeah.
But sometimes you might be exporting more, not necessarily being given the fair tariff.
Yeah.
Or the wholesale rate.
But you can get a meter, can't you? You can get an export meter.
You can, but there's a wider study about what reforms they need to bring in place, the government, so it encourages small scale producers to give them a fairer rate over time, the more that they export. So there's a consultation at the minute, I think. Okay,
so but basically, so number 7, install a technology, and we'll cover them in much more detail.
And we said solar PV. When we talked about solar PV, we said it's probably, you've got to hit certain kind of scenarios and criteria. Doing it just as a standalone measure is going to take a bit of time to pay off.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, no, absolutely. So you need to install things that are going to suit your lifestyle. Solar PV is great if you're powering your house with electricity, for example. If you have access to mains gas, mm-hmm. less relevant. Mm-hmm. So just be aware of that. But you can do all right.
Yep. So number 8, I think we exhausted that to death on episode 2, I think, or episode 3, swapping energy supplies.
Yes. Worth doing. Harry, remind me of the name of the people that swap you year on year.
Labrador and Look After My Bills.
Look After My Bills and Labrador.
There are others, but those are the big ones.
Okay.
That's twice.
I think I saw an advert on telly for one of them. I don't know if it was either of those two, but I was obviously this is a
loads
thing.
popping up now.
Yeah.
Look After My Bills did a study also recently with the standard cap coming in. They found that there's still 66 tariffs that are going that are more expensive than the standard cap. So it's quite an interesting one there.
Okay, but worth doing. So we still recommend swapping.
And remember, cheaper is not necessarily the best.
I disagree. Cheaper is the best.
There was that company. They actually went into administration, and then all the customers moved over to OVO.
It's on our news section.
It's on a new section.
Economy
energy.
But you can't worry about that. Because if it doesn't, the government do all that swapping for you, but you were on the cheaper tariff.
Yeah, but it just means that although Ofgem protects any overpayments, in theory, it just means it's just that the process of your money being locked in with someone else, it's just a painful process.
You got your electricity and gas cheaper in the first place.
Yes. But always, pros and cons.
We're trying to save money on energy bills. This is top 10 ways to save money on energy bills. So that is a good one.
Okay. What's number 9? I've exhausted at number 8 to...
Number 9. Use less water. So obviously you're only going to save money here if you're on a metered water tariff. As a rule of thumb, basically it used to be that it was done on the size of the property and you had to pay a sort of fixed amount. As a rule of thumb, if your house has more people than bedrooms, it is worth staying on the original unmetered tariff. The government want to move everyone to tariffs because obviously they want people to pay for what they use.
Yes.
If you, say, live in a 5-bedroom house and there are 2 of you, move on to a metered tariff because you'll be paying over the odds. And then you will actually be paying what you're using in terms of water. Moving on from that, using less water. So not having a 2-hour shower, have showers instead of baths. Simple.
But listen, I think it's a bigger point anyway. Just it costs an incredible amount of money to the whole kind of purification process for them to get the water in a state that is drinking water or cooking water, etc. To get it, through the mains into every household. So even if you haven't got a meter, there's a bigger point about the less water that we use.
Agreed.
The less extensive the kind of the energy required to get into that state. So overall, we'd be lowering our carbon footprint.
Yeah, I like that. The bigger picture. Nick is all about the bigger picture. Lovely stuff. But there are other things like there are shower heads that pump a bit of air into the water as it comes out. So it kind of feels like you're having a proper big shower, but actually you're using less water. You can put things in the cistern. What's the back bit of a toilet called?
Cistern.
A cistern.
Yep.
And you put either a bag and it swells, and so therefore every flush uses less water, or a cone, or you can use even like a milk carton.
And companies,
filled with air.
Companies have sort of branded stuff,
to make money out of it.
You can even put a brick. But I mean, I wouldn't kind of recommend that. Just some space there to.
So every flush is using less water.
Exactly. Shower heads.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. There's that water pebble. The
water pebble. I think all that does, as far as I can tell, is tells you how long you've been in the shower.
Yes.
Which a watch would do. I don't want to undo all the great work they're doing as a sort of energy saving company, but
you know what Jimmy was complaining to me about. You had a conversation today. He was complaining about his housemate taking too long in the shower. So if he had one of those clock radios or the pebble,
but in theory you just reset it and get another 10 minutes.
Or just turn the hot water off.
Yeah, turn the hot water off.
With your average shower, unless it's a kind of low water shower, if it's just the average everyday run-of-the-mill one, then if you're taking a shower that's over 8 minutes, you're better off having a bath.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
How long does it take you to take a shower?
Not long. I don't know. There's not much for me to clean. I'm so svelte.
Over 8 minutes, and your missus should kick you out.
Yep, exactly.
I think 3 minutes for me, and I'm out there.
Clean.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. There we go. Okay, number 10.
We talked about this. So you're quite appropriately dressed for the time of the season. So you've got a jumper, shirt.
Came with a jacket this morning.
Yep. Yeah. So if you can wear, so basically wearing the appropriate clothes for the time of the year. So in the winter, you want to wrap up and keep the temperature comfortable in the room, but obviously wear the appropriate clothes for that.
And what that basically means is you can turn the heating down. Yeah, that's how you.
So if you keep it at 19-20 degrees, it's a decent temperature.
Yeah, nice.
So I think that covers the top
10 really easy ways there. Do you want to fly through them again, or should we move on?
You can fly through them again. I was
okay,
say,
number one. Yep. I'm going for it.
Go for it.
Number one, control your heating with a thermostat. 2, insulate your home into an inch of its life. 3, swap out your old light bulbs for LEDs. 4, when appliances break, buy energy efficient ones to replace them. 5, stop drafts entering the house, so things like blocking chimneys, eco-ease, that sort of thing. 6, get a grip of what you're using in your house, so you monitor your energy. Smart meters, obviously, as Nick was saying, have this thing that allows you to see exactly what you're using. So use it, be aware. Energy guzzlers, try and use them less. 7, install something that is going to pay you for producing either electricity or hot water. So we're talking solar PV, wind turbine, solar thermal, heat pumps, biomass, that kind of
someone
thing.
mentioned micro CHP in the
Micro CHP. We'll talk about micro CHP another time.
Another episode, but yeah.
8, talked about it a lot a couple of weeks ago. Swap energy provider. Someone like USwitch, very easy to see.
Labrador auto switching.
All these auto switching things. So have a look. Go online and have a look. 9, use less water. Shorter showers. Do your teeth, turn the tap off. And 10, wear more clothes. Which sounds really stupid, but obviously it's a quick way to save money on your bills because you can turn the heating on less. So that's it, really. They're our top 10.
Okay.
So that's our main bit we've done.
Yeah, I was going to say. So if I'm sure there's other ways. If you do have,
we've done 101 ways to save energy in the home on our website.
Yes, we did. So if you got any suggestions, obviously, or sort of major ones that we think we missed out, definitely put them in the comments below.
It's unlikely because that was a pretty exhaustive list.
Not the 100, but I'm talking about on these.
The 10.
So if you've got 11, 12, and so forth, definitely leave comments on there. What I was going to say is, so one thing we did cover in the news when we were talking about the 10 things was about the economy energy. So that one was covered. Over Energy got those 235,000 customers. It
seems we've been doing this for a short time in our episode 5, but it seems that most weeks we're talking about an energy company that's gone bust.
I think because this is the time that when most consumption and this is the time when they are buying prices in, but they've got all these customers locked in. So
okay,
it's tough for them.
Should I be worried about it if my energy company goes bust?
Well, no. You're as I said. You're protected. It just might mean that the whole process of the regulator finding you an alternative. But also that the cheapest rate that you were on, you're not guaranteed to be on when you go with.
So basically, if it happens, just sit tight. Wait to be told what to do.
So that one was fine. So also, I don't know whether we should be alarmed by it or maybe it's just an anomaly. So apparently, it was the lowest, since 1994, it was the lowest amount of generated electricity in the UK.
Well, that's a good thing. With no blackouts, you take that.
But
surely that's efficiency.
But I think the point was about we're becoming more and more reliant on imports.
Okay.
So and also, which kind of leads on to the next point, Hitachi, who are a Japanese nuclear. Well, Hitachi do lots of different things.
Yeah.
But basically, they had a company called New Generation, which manage the rollout and the management of nuclear power plants. And then today they announced a project in North Wales, which was, they already started the feasibility and everything, and apparently £2 billion worth of commitments were made. But they cancelled that. They pulled out of the...
it's going to be interesting in that nuclear space, because we've got all these power stations.
Are you guys avoiding saying the Welsh name?
Yes. Go on, say
How do
it.
you say it?
Wylfa.
There you go.
Wylfa.
Bound to have a few comments on that. But the whole nuclear space is interesting with all our power stations. Hinkley
Point C is so far we think is
going to go ahead.
Yeah.
There are no real kind of replacement plans in place to replace the aging nuclear power stations.
But listen, 2020s are going to be interesting because the existing ones that are out there are due to be decommissioned.
I think it's 2025.
But the next decade, what I mean is
yes.
in the 2020s.
In the 2020s.
Yes.
Yes, in the 20s.
20s, yeah.
Sorry.
They're due to go offline, and then I think the one that was built in '95, which the name escapes me, was the newest one that we've got essentially.
Yeah.
That's due to go out in 2035, which is only 15 years or 16 years away. So.
And they provide about 20% of our electricity. So if you remove all of that power, we've got a big space that needs to be filled with
basically, they were saying Hinkley Point C would be 7% of all. So that would be 7%. But if all the other ones went offline, that would take 13% off. So we'd have to find that either through.
So would you say, and this is going to be marginally contentious potentially, would you say that HS2 is more important than replacing our nuclear power plants?
Oh God, that's a really difficult one, because I'm in favour of HS2. So personally, I think it's mutually exclusive, just because one is all about our engineering legacy, and the other one is about the energy sector. So I don't think I can comment any further.
But I mean, they are potentially both very large infrastructure.
Yes.
And the HS2 is getting bigger by the day.
It is.
£100 billion.
Yes.
Expensive train line. Anywho, right. Moving on from that.
And I think we did have a funny story, and I'm not sure whether Harry wants us to cover it because it is slightly humorous, but maybe we'll just leave it as a link because we're sort of running out of time. But apparently, scientists have developed seaweed that they can feed to cows so they can monitor their methane levels.
So they fart less.
Yes.
It's quite clever.
So, I mean, we can send a link.
Yeah, okay.
You can have a read.
Good, so I think that's it for episode 5.
It is, yeah.
Hopefully you've enjoyed. We are now, you can download this, obviously if you're watching this as a video, thank you, on YouTube, but you can download our podcast from, where can you download it? All sorts of places.
Podbean. Yep.
You can download
Spotify.
Yeah. Apple Podcasts, which I think is the main one.
Mm-hmm.
So if you go on to any of those places and type in The Green Room, you will be able to find us, and so you'll be able to listen to us at any moment.
Also on the GreenAge website, of course.
Yeah, you can go to the GreenAge website. And then if you need any more energy-saving information to sort of supplement what we talk about, you can go and have a look at the GreenAge. Head over there. We've got a lot of information.
Maybe we can link the 101 ways to save energy. Yeah? Got a note from Harry. That's perfect.
And then we can obviously add to our list. But I think that's it for now.
Yeah, enjoyed it today.
So, good. So everyone, thank you for listening. Thank you for watching, if you're watching YouTube. And we will see you and speak to you next week.